Welcome to the beautiful Beston Hall here at Nazareth University. My name is Jamie Fazio, and I'm the director of the Nazareth University Center for Spirituality. And I'd like to welcome you to a very special podcast event. Many of you who have followed Nazareth University in recent years are no doubt familiar with the Pres Paul podcast series, in which Nazareth's president, Dr. Elizabeth Paul, spoke with students, faculty, staff, and alumni across the Nazareth campus regarding projects they were working on and developments in their institutional areas. You may also be aware that during the university's 2-year centennial celebration, that podcast series evolved into the Changemaker Chat, which featured President Paul interviewing notable individuals from beyond Nazareth's campus who've changed their industry, their community, and the world for the better, inspired by their personal connection to Nazareth. Today, President Paul will be the interviewee, not the interviewer, and we'll be talking to her about her role and experiences during the past 6 years, both on campus and off, as one of the most significant changemakers in Nazareth University's history. This conversation comes just a few months before Dr. Paul will step aside and welcome the 11th president of Nazareth. Nazareth University will forever benefit from President Paul's contributions as a champion of higher education. I'm honored to introduce and to welcome Dr. Elizabeth Paul for her final podcast as president of Nazareth University. Well, Beth, we've had a lot of conversations over these past 6 years.
We sure have, and it has been such a joy.
Well, for me as well. And I thought we could have a 3-part conversation.
Okay.
One of looking back,
Mm-hmm.
second part looking within,
Mm-hmm.
and the third part looking ahead.
Beautiful.
So let's start by looking back.
Okay.
Well, take me back to, you received an email or a prospectus about this place called Nazareth College. What intrigued you about us? What caught your attention?
I am a mission-driven person. It's really all about mission and my reflection on whether I would be useful for advancing that mission. A phrase that I've always used about my life is, am I useful? What is the best use of me? And so I was at an inflection point where I was trying to think about what would be most useful for me and for the leadership that I had started to take on. And I had known of Nazareth College for many years and always had great admiration for what Nazareth was all about. But I didn't know the depths of Nazareth. I knew the surfaces. I didn't know the soul, what I have come to know as the soul of Nazareth. So as soon as I started researching Nazareth, and it was actually my husband who came to me, I was set up at the dining room table, my typical place of doing my extensive research. And he came up to me and he said, you do realize that this school is going to be celebrating its 100th anniversary. And have you read this article about the Sisters of St. Joseph? I'll never forget that day. It was both conversations. And then, he kept on coming up behind me as I was continuing to study and really getting to know Nazareth. And he would say, so what would the sisters say? What would the sisters think? And that was really profound. So right from the beginning, I felt a real connection with shared vocation, with shared commitment, shared mission. And the more I learned and the more, it connected, it was really powerful. And then I met you.
I know, this reminds me of our first conversation.
I remember that so well.
Part of your on-campus interview,
Mm-hmm.
we were around a table, a little bit bigger,
Mm-hmm.
a few more people
Mm-hmm.
in the boardroom.
Mm-hmm.
And you referenced the founders and the values and their influence.
Mm-hmm.
What do you recall from that conversation?
I will never forget that conversation. It was so inspiring to hear from members of the Nazareth community how that heritage really connected. In so many words, not everyone expressed it in the same way, but to feel it as real was really meaningful to me. And, anybody who's a leader in any type of organization, it's a challenge. There's a lot of dimension to that work. And I had experiences where, a mission on a piece of paper was one thing. Mm-hmm. But I had learned that it's the courage to live the mission that really is where the power is. And that's what I felt in that conversation. I felt people who were truly endeavoring to live this mission. little did I know what would be coming next. Little did any of us know what challenges would come next. But even at that time, this was 2019 at that time, people were really connected with the why, and that was very powerful.
It's fitting we're on this stage because this is where you were introduced to us for the first time. I remember that day very well.
I do too. I remember that too. I remember, the other striking memory for me was carry on my on-campus visit, and it was it was the middle of December. It was the end of final exam week, and I was the last candidate, and it was the end of final exam week. Think about campus at the end of final exam week. It's usually a pretty quiet time. And I remember coming into the all-campus session, and it was packed. And what I truly remember, and this built upon the conversation that we had earlier in the day, were the students who were there, who expressed themselves in such powerful ways and asked me really hard, pointed questions about what it is to be human and what it is to be an inclusive community. I'll never forget that. It was a very, very powerful indication of what this place is all about.
So fast forward.
Here we are on the stage.
On the stage. You walk through those doors.
I did.
You come over to the podium.
I did.
It was an exciting day.
It was a very exciting day, very special.
What were things you were thinking that day? You were hoping for, things you were excited about coming to Nazareth to do?
It felt so right, and that is the beginning of it. But as I reflect on that time, I remember using the theme of an inflection point. And I talked a lot about the fact that we were very much at an inflection point, that higher education was at an inflection point, the university, the college then was at an inflection point, that I was at an inflection point, and that in society in many ways you could see inflection point happening. What's an inflection point? It's a point of change. It's a turning. It's a new opportunity. It's challenges and it's new opportunity. And I remember so clearly situating this opportunity in that concept. And I remember being on this stage and looking out to this beautiful Nazareth community and very confidently sharing that I see Nazareth as a movement. And I still feel that way. I see Nazareth as a social justice movement. And for an inflection point, that's what you need. You need a movement, a set of people who are motivated to move in mission-directed ways with firm values at hand to make a positive difference in the world. And that's what's here.
Well, little did we know what was to come. And I think the next time I saw you in person, we were in the forum on the delayed commencement.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes.
So looking back to that time period of you being excited to come to Nazareth, and then all of a sudden this transition is now virtual. We're experiencing a global pandemic. The uncertainty and of how we would manage and navigate, not only as a university but as a world. What was in your mind when you were thinking about that for us and you're beginning your presidency in the middle of all this?
It was wild. I remember I was here. It was actually the weekend of March 7th and 8th. And I was here visiting. And I went back to Ohio to close the campus, my former campus, because of COVID. That spring was also a time of continued unrest in the country with the killing of George Floyd. And having had that deep conversation when I was here with the students about truly being an inclusive community and truly being a community that was willing to act to make it inclusive, I really felt a lot of resonance with that time. So it was the confluence of those issues. It was these profound questions about health and humanity and society and community and responsibility to one another and responsibility of one's own and community. And I mean, it was all of that, both in a health way and in a human relationship way and a dignity of all human beings way. And that was very powerful as a context for preparing to come into this community. It was a very unusual time because everything went virtual. And so I would sit in a given day and I would be leading the closing of one campus and the trying to figure out how to manage everything with one campus and participating in everything here because it was all on Zoom. Mm-hmm. It was a study in culture. It was a study in contrast in institutional cultures, which was really interesting. It told me a lot about what this community is about. I saw people who were steadfast in finding ways for this mission to continue. And as you know, one of the words that I think I used more than any other word in at least my first year here, but probably my whole time here, is ingenuity. And that's a very deep compliment to Nazareth, that we care so much about the power and importance of this mission that we'll stop at nothing to keep it going. And that's what we did.
During that time, we could have stopped looking forward and perseverated on mm-hmm. the challenge that was before us. Mm-hmm. But you led us through a time where we did two things simultaneously. Mm-hmm. We addressed the direct need before us, mm-hmm. but you also had us looking forward. Mm-hmm. And you did that. You invited us to do that through the lens of our founding. Mm-hmm. Can you share a little bit about that process of strategic planning you took us through and why you decided to do that in this time where we were in such uncertainty and worry?
Mm-hmm. What would the sisters do? Mm-hmm. What would the sisters do? The sisters had been through even more challenge in the 100 years of Nazareth. Mm-hmm. In many ways, we were founded at a very similar time, on the heels of the last century's pandemic and all sorts of social change. So it was powerful to reflect on that. And, one of the things that I admire so much about the sisters is that they're real about the times that we're in. They are real about the needs of the day. And they model the courage to be wide-eyed about the challenges of the day. And I've always said in my leadership that, it's because I care so deeply that I will be real and honest about the challenges of the day, because that's what leads you through them. And that's what leads you to the possibility and the opportunity beyond. So to practice that courage and to look at that openly with a future lens, with the entire community during a time of profound, is humanity stopping? No, humanity is at an inflection point. And an inflection point is a point of opportunity. Let's all come together as community to invent that, to discover that together. So it was a very deliberately crafted process to model inclusivity. Mm-hmm. It was very deliberate, involving every aspect of our Nazareth community and giving every individual opportunity for multiple stages of input. And multiple stages of imagination, positive imagination. One of the terms I use for myself sometimes is I'm a possibilitarian. I believe in possibilities. And to bring that spirit into that planning process at a time when the world was really struggling, that's where the magic was. And our community was so ready for it. Our community was all there. And it was such a beautiful, beautiful expression of the passion and courage in our community. That was more moving than anything.
I was thinking back to that commencement, the virtual commencement, mm-hmm. when we were in the forum. Mm-hmm. And we began that commencement ceremony when I did the invocation with a moment of silence,
Yes.
because it was the day T.C. Vivian
Mm-hmm.
and John Lewis had died
Mm-hmm.
on the same day, 2
Mm-hmm.
civil rights leaders who inspired generations,
Mm-hmm.
particularly John Lewis having a connection with the Sisters of St. Joseph and Selma.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. One of the experiences we had together
Mm-hmm.
was traveling on our civil rights journey
Mm-hmm.
to Selma.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share a little bit about that experience?
Oh, gosh. One of the most moving and deep experiences, to be side by side with members of our community, particularly students, to walk in the footsteps of our Sisters of St. Joseph ancestors, the women who walked before us, and the ways that they showed up, the ways that they were real, again, about the challenges of the day, and dedicated to act in a beautiful human way, taking risk, exercising courage in that conviction of being human. And, more than anything, the commitment to neighbor without
Mm-hmm.
distinction. That experience taught us that in a way that I'll never forget. What does it really mean to connect neighbor to neighbor? And what does it really mean to connect without distinction? And the sisters teach us that in a way that I'm afraid our world has lost. And it's still here at Nazareth. I cherish that. And one of my greatest hopes is that we will continue to reinvigorate that commitment and show the world how it's done. Because again, we've forgotten, and we need it.
Leading to the centennial,
Mm-hmm.
There was great excitement.
Mm-hmm.
We were coming out of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
We've been thinking about our founding, its values
Mm-hmm.
of showing up for 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
Share a little bit about your excitement about the centennial, but also what it meant for you and what it means for us as we transition to the next 100 years.
My excitement for the centennial has transformed with the ways in which our world has transformed. I remember back in 2019, as I was studying Nazareth and getting excited about the math of the upcoming centennial, and having a party together as a community, celebrating what is higher education, celebrating the importance of that in our world. That's exciting. But I didn't know that a pandemic was coming. I didn't know that a new level of reckoning with racial difference was coming. And so as we were dealing with those profound changes and challenges, it took on a completely different meaning. And for me, it took on the meaning of helping our community reach into our legacy and find the strength and find the vision and find the model of courage that we needed to work through the current time to find our way forward. That's what it meant to me. And I know that, I've made jokes about it, that we celebrated for 2 years because you don't turn 100 more than once, and it's kind of exciting. And it is very exciting. But in that time, more than anything, I felt that we needed the time to focus on that inner strength that is ours, that's our birthright, that's in our DNA, it's in our soul. And so how do we call that forward? And how do we use that to focus us on moving through this very difficult time? There are a lot of dimensions to what we've worked on in the last several years. And the point was to ensure Nazareth's bright future. That's always the point. So in leadership, there's a lot that draws you to this moment in time. And certainly during the last 6 years, with all of the challenges that we've dealt with, there are lots of things that have driven my attention to the immediate moment in time. But that's not the role of leadership. The role of leadership is to pave a pathway to the future and to excite people about that future, and to ensure that future, to ensure that the foundation is strong so that that future can continue to emerge. And I feel like that's the work we've done. And it excites me that now, as we're in our first year of the new century, which is just an awesome thing to think about, we're on a firmer foundation. We can have the confidence to look into that future. And as I think about the world that we're living in, we must stand tall and exercise that courage to work toward the future. This future that we're looking in is still undefined in lots of ways. Profound questions about humanity, profound questions about community, profound questions about our values. And we have been a community that has stayed centered in commitments and values. And they're exactly the commitments and values that we need in our world right now. One of my favorite events that I recall was a assembly day that we had early in I think it might have been in my second or third year, maybe the third year. Very much inspired by a conversation with one of my most profound teachers, who is Sister Susan Nowak. And we talked together about how important it was to remind people about humanity. We had been cut off from each other in the pandemic. We had been separated from one another. My first few years here, I had to walk around parking lots to try to meet people because I couldn't be in rooms with them, which is very painful to do. I mean, that's not the way that I like to interact. So we had a panel of staff and faculty, and from their unique position, talking about humanity. And it was the most powerful, beautiful, recentering conversation. That's what we're all about. And that's what we need to be about.
I imagine over these past 6 years, you've met a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Who are some of those people that stand out, people that have inspired you?
Oh, there are so many. There are so many. I have to start with Jake Miller. Jake is, I think he's pretty much our mayor at this point, probably the mayor of Nazareth. But Jake is a graduate of our Life Prep program. And again, thinking about the times that I have had here, think about that pandemic. One of my lasting memories about the pandemic is the Life Prep students. And they were a constant, indefatigable source of joy. Didn't matter what was going on in this world. They were joyous. It didn't matter how they could or couldn't do things on campus. They found a way, and they were joyous. And they were a constant reminder for all of us here of the persistence of that beautiful humanity. It was really a beautiful thing. So I'm forever grateful for that. I've had amazing teachers. I really have. I've learned from so many people all around campus, including our students. Our students are, every individual is a spark of inspiration and joy. Being able to look out in this room at the prospective students and welcoming them into the future of this institution, the future of our world, that is just profound. And getting to know them individually and greeting them as I'm walking around campus, that really has been a joy. There are people working here all throughout that are as inspired as anyone, and that is really inspiring. And then meeting our alumni, seeing what this institution creates all around the world has been just incredible. The power that is in this institution, in its community, its collective, inclusive community, is just awesome in the true sense of the word. I've also had painful conversations with people about experiences in various times of our history that haven't felt like they've been in concert with our mission. And having healing conversations about what action would help to address that now, and finding the courage in our community to do that. That's also been really powerful. And then the greater Rochester community is just incredible. You know, to be situated here, to be in a community that truly cares about all elements of our community, neighbor to neighbor without distinction, the partnerships we have all throughout, that is very, very powerful. So I can't single out any individual because there are just so many.
Well, we've looked back.
We have.
Thought now maybe we can look within. You know, Sister Donna Del Santo, who works in our department, talks about, she's got this great phrase, we're human beings, not human doings. So I'm going to ask this question in two parts. What are some of the things, some of the accomplishments, looking back, that when July 1st comes, you're going to be like, I'm really proud of these accomplishments. You know, this is something I worked hard for and I brought to Nazareth. That's part one. But also, you know, how are you today? What is it in your heart? You've led with your heart since you've been here. Want to hear a little bit about your heart as well.
I think one of my weaknesses is that I don't look back well. You know, I'm always looking forward, because that's the love I have for this place, for this mission, for how important higher education is in our world. I'm always looking forward. What's next as the next best way that we can live our mission? And I know that can be really hard. It can be really hard for community, for individuals who are working so hard just to keep up with the kinds of challenges that we've been dealing with. And so I reflect on that a lot, you know, that we've been through very, very trying times. And we've been through trying times that have fragmented us as a world. And every individual deals with that in various ways. And there are many individuals who feel fearful, who feel anxious, and I'm really sensitive to that. I'm very, very aware of that. So being trying to evoke the community that we are called to be and that we are at our core, I hope is a community where people feel supported for being full, beautiful human beings. And that includes having some fears and having some anxieties. And we look forward, because that's how much we believe in what we do here. So, you know, what am I proud of? I'm proud of being community together. I'm proud of being true to our values. I'm proud of being true to our mission. I'm proud of staring very hairy challenges straight in the face. And even though there are fears and even though there is anxiety, we have to be honest about the kinds of challenges that we're dealing with and address them with mission-directed and value-directed action. And I feel that we've done that. You know, I have the incredible privilege of working with a beautiful, diverse, very strong team of senior leaders. And together, I feel with the whole community, we have led through really trying times. And to be now in a position of being able to hand that baton to the next leader and have confidence that we're well on our way on our second century. And I'm confident about where that's going to go. How am I? I am, I feel like this is exactly the use of me that I had hoped it would be. And that feels good. I'm also, you know, I continually reflect on that question. And so a year and a half ago, it was clear to me that I was approaching the not the end, but I was approaching a moment where another inflection point, where I knew I had passion and conviction and strength that was not being used as well, and that there was a next opportunity. I have no idea what it is, but I really believe that it is there and that it will find me and I will find it. So I am, I know I've been exactly where I've been meant to be, and that feels beautiful. I feel very, very fortunate for that experience. And I know I'm not done. And I know that there is opportunity somewhere there for me to, again, use myself well. You know, as human beings, we're always growing. This is what we believe here at Nazareth University. You know, we're always learning and we're always growing. We do have souls, and we do have guiding lights, guiding purposes, guiding values that drive us. I really believe in making sure that that is dynamic and ever growing. I really believe in not allowing that to stagnate. So I believe that for myself. I believe that for every individual I work with. I really believe in continuing to grow people, continuing to help people reach and learn and try on new things. That's what life is about. And it's hard because you have to leave places that you really love. And that is the hard part. And we all continue, and we'll all have a special place in our hearts for one another. And I know that that connection won't end.
Well, we've looked back.
We have.
We've looked within.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's look ahead.
All right. I'm ready.
You know, for Nazareth, where do you see the next 100 years?
Wow. You know, I am so excited for Nazareth on this precipice. Yes, we're in a time of tremendous change. And, you know, I've often talked about how I really do believe we're in a time of revolutionary change. And I think the more our society evolves, the more I'm convinced of that we are truly in a time that is going to remake our existence. And so what is the role of Nazareth University? You know, if we look to our past in terms of what our role is not to hide in fear or anxiety. Our role is not to react in a knee-jerk way and make a short-term pitch, but to respond and to lead, to be proactive in using our mission and using our values to define what our world should be. What should our world be as community? What should we be as human beings who care about each other, no matter who each other is? What should we be as learned individuals, as people who think and reflect and continually learn? What should we be? And, you know, when I think about the kind of education that we offer here, very much grounded in the liberal arts and sciences, but expansive, you know, including all different areas of expertise. When I think about that as the playground, as the very fertile playground for thinking across boundaries, for thinking at the intersections and defining new possibilities, that is so exciting. You know, what I hope for Nazareth is that we will draw on our core value of courage so that we can respond in that way, so that we can imagine on that playground, so that we can reach across boundaries and form fascinating intersections. And, you know, as I interact with our students here, they know it's in them. When I have conversations with our students and encourage them to be their whole selves and to draw out interests that they've maybe had for a long time, but they didn't feel like they could express them, or to imagine future possibilities that they've been thinking about, but they thought would be too wild to voice out loud, it's in them. So that's what I'm excited for Nazareth to be, that community, much like the sisters created it 100 years ago to be exactly that kind of community, to formulate a new pathway and to encourage people who otherwise weren't encouraged to be on that pathway, to come into that pathway and to share their novel ideas and to make it this beautiful future. To me, that's where the excitement is.
Now, looking forward for Beth. July 1st, the responsibilities of governance of Nazareth University is no longer on your shoulders. What's it going to feel like, and what are you looking forward to?
What a great question. I don't know. You know, in all candor, I've been in higher education my entire career. And half of that has been as either a president or a provost. And I have been a president and a provost in really challenging situations. You know, that just has defined my career. You know, working with institutions that needed profound change, that were in, you know, challenging circumstances. I've never shied away from a big challenge, and that's in me. So I know that that's part of me, and I know that there are future challenges for me to find. But I have to say, honestly, the responsibility has just been huge. You know, I feel the weight of it, and especially these last few years, I really feel the weight of it. I feel the human weight of it. You know, you and I have been through some really sad times in our community. You know, when we lose a student, when we lose a faculty member, staff member, it's losing a part of our soul. And I feel that very, very deeply. So I think for a little bit, I'd like some a little bit of freedom to sit without that responsibility for a little bit and see what it reveals about myself. I don't really know. I'm excited for the first time in my life to really make myself just sit and you know, as Jamie has always told me, to sit with myself and to contemplate and to just open myself to what is the next great use of me. I really do trust that it's there, but I also recognize that I need a little bit of a quiet, free space to be able to relish that. The other thing that I'm really looking forward to is I have a beautiful family. And my family has given up a lot for me to do what I've done, especially these last 20 years. My daughters this week are turning 27 and 30. My husband has been a constant, you know, source of support through a lot of ups and downs. And it's been hard. You know, they have made sacrifices for me to be able to do what I do. It's been a beautiful experience these last several years to hear it said back to me from my daughters, to hear my daughters explain back to me what they have experienced through this journey. It's been really profound. And it's time for them to be more in the center. They've always been in the center. They know they've always been in the center. But it's their time to take risks and to reach for big challenges. And I want to be there to support them every step of the way. Part of that is having my first grandchild.
Congratulations.
And that is a beautiful gift. And, you know, again, my kids went through me as they were growing up. We didn't have family nearby. And I don't want to do that again. I want to be close together, and we all want to be close together. So I'm looking forward to that opportunity. But they are incredible. My daughters are incredible, strong women who have passion of their own and who are making a difference in the world in their own ways. And I'm their best cheerleader.
Beth, I'm going to ask you for one thing before you leave.
Uh-oh.
Yes, well, you know, for the past 6 years, I've heard about the brownies.
Oh, the brownies.
I've never had a brownie, Beth.
Oh my goodness, Jamie, how could that be?
So can we rectify the brownies?
I suppose we could.
Well, okay, it's on here.
Okay,
So
okay, I'll have to do it. I make killer brownies.
I've heard.
You know, the one thing that probably has gotten me through this more than anything is I eat chocolate every opportunity I can. There have been days when I have, come into my colleagues' offices and said, please, you've got to lock my drawer because I've really overdone it. I've started at 8 o'clock in the morning eating chocolate and it's just enough. But I do make killer brownies, so I'll be looking forward to sharing that with
I'll
you.
look forward to that. But seriously, Beth, thank you. Personally, thank you for our conversations and our time together over these past 6 years. I've learned so much from you, and I've appreciated how you've led us through some times of deep uncertainty, times of worry, but you've done it from a place of inviting us to be authentically grounded in who we are. And in that authentic grounding, to move forward with purpose, to move forward with integrity, and to move forward with a sense that we may not know the outcome, but we know we're going to be a part of the solution that the world needs. So for that, Beth, I'm personally, as an alum and as the chaplain, I'm deeply grateful for your leadership and your presence and your mentorship.
Thank you.
So thank you for your service to us, and the best of everything as you move forward into the next chapters of your life.
It means the world to me that you see that, and you have been a source of great support and inspiration, as have so many in this community. So I am honored for the time that we've been together, and I will be the biggest champion of Nazareth moving forward, and very much look forward to seeing the continued journey. Thank you so much. I'm really grateful. And to all, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening.